In this video, we're going to be taking a look at using CoreDRAW to recreate a design that we found and do it in a vector file so we can cut it out in heat transfer vinyl. So a lot of times we might see a rhinestone design that we like that's not available in heat transfer vinyl. So we have to wind up making our own version of it. Now this is one that we have done previously and have already posted. So for this video I thought, well, what if we go out there and look for something similar but different? So let's just come out here to the internet and let's just see what we can find. I'm just going to type in rhinestone heel. Go to images here. And to limit this a little bit, we need to filter this a little bit more. And let's call it, let's try motif. Sometimes I'll try motif, sometimes I'll try transfer. So let's see what we can find this way. And now this gives us the results that are a little bit more indicative of what we were looking for originally. So now what we can do is we can just kind of come through here and see if there's a particular design I have in mind, if I can find it again. If not, we'll just go with something. Here it is right here. This is the design that I kind of had in mind. Okay, so we're not gonna actually put the Patriots and all that on there. I'm just gonna do the heel itself. Now let's see. Let's just scroll a little bit and see if maybe there's a little bit better image. That one's pretty small. When you hover over an image, you can see how big it is in pixels. Now the bigger the image, the easier it is to probably work with, but this image will be fine. So it's not very big. It's only 220 pixels by 220 pixels, but it'll work for what we need. So I'm just going to right click and choose copy image. And then we'll just come back over into CoreDRAW and I'm just going to hit Control V to paste. And it'll paste it right in the center of our page. Alright. Now if you want to, you can resize this image. In fact, I probably will. Don't have to. We can begin drawing it at whatever size we want. So now I need to go ahead and lock this image down. So I'm going to do that by right-clicking, and I'm going to choose Lock Object. And now I can begin going ahead and basically recreating this. And we're going to do that using our 3-point curve tool here in CoreDRAW. Now I have our custom toolbar installed, which is available for free on the website. But if you don't have this, you can access the 3-point curve tool. It's the second tool down, or excuse me, the fourth or fifth tool down, I guess it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And then you can access the 3-point curve tool there. But I always use it right here on my toolbar. So what we're going to do is pretty simple. We'll just start here at the bottom of our heel, and you click once to start the line. You let go of your mouse, and the third line, you click to set it. Alright, so now we're going to do from this corner all the way to here. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well in the video, but as I hover over, there's a little downward pointing arrow. So that means I'm connecting. So I see that arrow, I'm going to come to this point here, third point there. Now the more you get to using this tool, let's go into wireframe mode, maybe you can see this better. The more you get to using this tool, the easier it is to use. Now I'm recreated so many designs, it's pretty easy for me to do. So I'm just going to keep going here. Connect. And sometimes if you're not careful, you'll mess up a little bit. So we'll go back to our 3-point curve tool. And then we'll connect. I'll come all the way down here. If we screw up along the way where we draw something and it doesn't match up exactly, it really doesn't matter too much because we can always come in and fix it. So you can see here, this outline, I did this deliberately so we can fix it. It's not exactly perfect, but like I said, we can fix it quite easily when we're all done kind of roughing things in. So we'll just do that, kind of rough it in quick, following around. And again, we've got some cleanup there to do. But I want to leave a couple of spots that are a little bit off so I can show you how we can edit those once we're all done. So we'll come down here and then we'll come to here. Anywhere there's a transition in direction is like where I stop. So you can see here it comes down this way, but then it kind of goes back out this way. So anytime there's a transition in the design of direction of change, that's where I kind of make my changes. Now we're going to do the inside part of our heel right here. So let's put that in. So you can see we don't need a really good quality image to start with. We just have to get an idea, basically, of what we're going to want to do. All right, so now we'll go ahead and I'm going to make sure nothing is selected and then start another curve right here to this point here. So that basically is our heel, okay? And so now we have a couple of different areas of color. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to kind of come off the page a little bit. And I'm going to try and get this in here. Now this doesn't exactly line up with the original artwork, so I might come back in and tweak and modify that a little bit once I'm all done. So I am going to come off the page again. And I'll explain why we do that when we're creating our construction lines here in just a bit. So now what I want to do, let me go back to enhanced mode so we can see this perhaps better. If we pull this away, you can kind of see what we have going here. So there's a little bit of a point there and a couple little areas that we need to clean up. But what I want to do here for this red area is I'm going to do mine just a little bit differently. I'm actually going to take this and use our contour tool and just contour this to the outside a little bit. So what we're doing here, and what I'm really focusing on right now, is this space right here. Okay? So that's phase one, if you will. So I want to, whatever distance I want that second stripe to be. So I'm kind of going on my own now. So there's my second stripe. I'm going to right click and choose Break Contour Group Apart. And now I'm going to go back to the original line, because now for the bottom part I want something different. So I'm going to go back to my contour tool, and you'll see this all come together momentarily. Go back to my contour tool, and for the bottom we're going to do a skinnier transition. So we're going to do something like this. Now you have to have a good idea in your head what you're actually going to want to do, because it does get kind of confusing a little bit. Alright, so now what I want to do is I actually want to open up Easy Stone here, because we have a couple of useful functions. I don't usually use Easy Stone when we're doing vector design work so much, but in this case I will, because what we want to do here, I'm just going to double click on this first outline, and that takes us into our shape tool. And then we're going to click Ban. And what that does is it break at nodes. So as you can see, I got this I can delete now. Come down here, double click on my line, select those two end nodes and hit Ban. And then I can delete here and I can delete here. Now what if you don't have Easy Stone? What would you do? In that scenario, where I can show you that too. In that scenario, we would double click. If we select those two nodes on the end, it's tough to see that they're selected, but they really are. And then we could choose Break Apart. And you'll have a similar effect, but you have to do it. I think you have to do it. Let's see here. You have to kind of zoom in here. Let's see here. Then I think what you have to do is maybe say break. Yeah, it's a double step. So we have to break the nodes apart, and then we have to break the curve apart. So to do that again, if you don't have Easy Stone, it's a two-step process. We double click to switch to our shape tool. We select the nodes that we want to break apart. We have to hover over one of them and choose Break Apart. And you can see how this has a little dimple on each end. We know that the nodes are broken apart, but now we have to select the curve again and right click, and we have to break the curve apart. So it's an extra step. So that's why we have all these built-in functions here in Easy Stone to simplify some of those steps. Alright, so this was the original line. We don't need this third line here. So we'll get rid of that. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go back in for the color part of our design. So we have this was the original line, the bottom line, and then we have offset, and we have this offset. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of just anywhere, just double click and break it apart. And then what that will enable me to do is I can pick up that node and connect it somewhere over here like this. And so we're going to basically do the same thing with there. We're going to right click and break it apart, and we're just going to connect these two. So that one's there, this one's going to be up here. So we're going to connect it like that. So this part of the design, the line, actually we don't need at all. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. And then we don't need this center line right there. Oops. I guess these are connected. So we'll select R and break it apart just like we did previously. So we have something like that. Okay? So obviously this transition doesn't look very good right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect these two lines, these two separate paths. We're going to connect those two. And we do that by right-clicking on band. And then all I'm going to do here is I'm probably just going to set a node here. We have a node there. And we'll just delete this middle one. And it kind of takes care of the transition all by itself. And we could fine-tune using our little control handles here and fine-tune the exact transition that we're looking for. Alright, so now if you look at here, we have, and it kind of goes straight up. So we can do kind of a similar thing. But what I am going to do differently is we still have this bottom part of this blue part that we have to get in here. So this blue, we're going to go back to our contour tool. And basically, I'm gonna bring it out as far as this point of the heel. Let's see what it is over here. It may look a little strange. Let's maybe not make it so thick. Maybe we'll do something like that. I'm gonna pull it out a little bit more. I want that to kind of die into the heel a little bit there. So we'll go ahead and break that apart. We'll do the same thing. We're gonna double click. We're going to choose this band option and do the same thing on this side. Band. We'll get rid of this because we don't need that, and we'll get rid of this so we don't need that, and this. Alright, so now this line here we don't actually need at all up to a certain point. So where this connects right here, intersects right here, we don't need that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click to create a node, and then I'm going to pull that node down till it says edge. It's actually going to snap to the edge of this other path, and then I'm just going to go ahead and come back up here and delete these nodes just by double clicking on them back to that edge. Okay, and so this is how this will kind of transition here. So I think I'll be happy with that. So watch what we're going to do. We're going to use our Smart Fill tool here, and then we can fill in that shape. So you get how we're getting there, right? So it's a bit of a tedious process to figure out exactly how we want all this to work, but once you figure it out, it's pretty straightforward. So now for the next part of it, we need to do this red part here. So in this original design, it looked like the red was basically the same width as our blue. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our offset tool again, and we're just going to eyeball it. How wide is this? And we're going to offset basically the same accordingly. Okay. So and it doesn't have to be that way. It could be skinnier or whatever. However you want it to be. It can be however you want it to be. So I want them to be roughly the same. So once we're happy with that, we'll go there and let's go back to our original. And now on the original design, we see it kind of comes in and straight down and then kind of dies into it. So let's see if we can't create something similar to that. So I think we'll just use our 3-point curve tool, and we're just going to come straight down. And you can see we can just come right to that edge. So we're going to do just like that. It's basically coming straight down and dying in. Alright, so now let's clean up our lines here and see if we can make heads or tails out of what we've got. So double click. We're going to use the band function here in EasyStone. We're going to double click here and use the band function. So now we'll have to kind of put our thinking caps on what we need and what we don't need, because it does get confusing in a hurry. Alright, so we don't need that. We don't need this line any longer. Actually, we do need that. Alright, because we have a space between the two colors. So we don't need this though. This line here we don't need coming all the way up, but we do need it to intersect here. So this line right now does not intersect. So we'll bring that down to the edge. So I'm just going to double click and then pull this down to that endpoint. It says intersection, right click and break apart. So now when I come up here on this line here, I can just double click on the nodes and it'll take us right back to that point there. So now I want to combine these two because I want to kind of smooth that transition. So we right click on band, that combines those two, and now we're going to smooth out this transition a little bit. So we're going to double click on a node there, double click a node here, and then we'll just click a couple of times in between. When you click on a node, it deletes it. So you can see how it kind of smooths that out, and we kind of need some smoothing here too. So I'm just going to add a node down here, and if I go into wireframe mode, perhaps we can see this better. There's a node there. You can see here where there's a couple of nodes. I'm just going to delete that because I think it helps smooth that out a little bit. And maybe I'll go ahead and delete this one in the middle. This one right here. Maybe that smooths that out a little bit better. And now that I look at this in wireframe mode, I could see here too that these other lines would probably benefit from a little bit of smoothing. So I'm going to back out a little bit and actually take a more in-depth look at the entire outline, because now it's time to kind of clean this up. So you see where there's a really sharp point there? It's right there. What we're going to do to get rid of that, what I always do is, I think it's the easiest way, is just to double click on the line to add a node on either side, and then delete what's in the middle. And so now you can see how nice and smooth that is. Up here, if we think there's something kind of strange going on, we can also right-click a node and get right on top of it here. And we can choose the smooth option, and then CoreDRAW will attempt to smooth that line out. Now you can see here we don't have a connection. That line does not connect, and that's an important point that I'm going to demonstrate what happens in that scenario. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it for now. But we'll right click here and choose smooth, and see now it actually does connect. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and, sometimes I change my mind as I go. Make sure that is smooth. So that's a smooth node. I'm very particular about the designs when I'm finished with them. So you'll see me do all kinds of crazy things and spend a lot of time nitpicking a design, because I do like to have it perfect. So we'll right click on this node, smooth that out a little bit. Now you see these lines aren't connecting, and that's going to cause us a problem here in a minute, which I want to show you and demonstrate so how to fix it. So if it happens to you, you know why it's happening. Alright, so now I think I'm pretty satisfied with the outline, its smoothness. Make sure all these are smooth. Alright, so now I'm pretty happy with the outline. So now basically what we want to do is we want to go put in all the fill in the shoe. Let's go back to enhance mode for that. If I grab, oh, I do see one more here. This point here does not look smooth. Alright, and neither is this one, now that I look at it. Let's go back to wireframe mode and see what's happening here. Alright, I think I'll go with that. Alright. So if we use this Smart Fill tool, it only works with boundaries. So I know there's a good boundary right here in between the shoes, so you can see we have a boundary object. Now what happens if I click a different area? I'm going to undo that, and I'll click a different area and watch what happens. Something unexpected happened there. There's more filled than what I expected. So anytime you're using that Smart Fill tool, if that happens, what that's telling you basically is we don't have a good outline. So you can see there's a gap, there's a hole in the bucket right there. And so now when I use my paint bucket tool or Smart Fill tool, now you can see that it doesn't fill in an area that's too big because we have a nice outline. So I'm going to go ahead and just try and fill this in quick. So we have a situation here. So that tells me we're missing a connection point somewhere. And I guess it's here. So we'll go ahead and pull that up and then try it again. Yes. So that takes care of that. That is basically the only red in the design. So now we're going to switch over. We'll do some kind of blue color. And then we have this blue color right there. And then we'll switch over to some kind of gray color. And we'll put that. Okay? So that's kind of a grayish color there. In fact, maybe what we'll do is we'll make this, I don't know, maybe we'll make that a little bit darker. Something like that. So now we have this. So now what I want to do is I want to pick up, I want to leave all of our construction lines, and I want to pick up just the solid fill. So I'm going to select my light gray, hold my shift key, select a dark gray, a red. Looks like we got one more fill to go here, right here in the middle. All right, so now we're going to select dark gray, light gray, red and blue, and target those colors. So click on target, and then we're going to select the whole design, S, and then pull over just those shapes. So we leave all of our construction lines, and now all we have is our vector lines. Now for this particular shoe, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to, and it's always good when you're creating designs to maybe do it in stages. So now that we have this first stage done, let's go ahead and copy our shoe, and let's apply an outline of 20 pixels. That might be a little bit wide for this design. Let's try 10. No, that's too little. 16, right down the middle. All right, I'm going to live with that. So we're going to do 16. You know, I don't know. I'm going to change my mind here. Let's do 8. I got a different idea now. It just came to me. So we'll do 8. And I think that'll be good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select our whole design, and we're going to create a boundary around it. And we're going to use this boundary later. We're not going to use it right now, but you'll see here in a second we're going to use it. I want to show you a neat little function here in Easy Stone. What we're going to do is, again, we're going to select our light gray, dark gray, red, and blue, and target those colors again. Pick up all those shapes by hitting S, and then we have a function in here called Vinyl Essentials. And what Vinyl Essentials will do, because all of these objects have an outline, what Vinyl Essentials is going to do, it's going to trim our shape based on the thickness of our outline and leave us a gap. Now, that doesn't make any sense to you right now, I realize that, but watch what happens. If you just understand what happens and you see the finished result, it'll probably make sense. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and just click on Vinyl Spacer. And now you can see that we have a gap. Everywhere where there was a color connecting to another color, there's a small gap. Now you also see this right here, right? That is that boundary object that we created. And the reason I wanted that boundary is because I want to add a border. So we're going to use our contour tool. I'm going to make this border a little bit thicker. And we're going to delete the inside one. Give this a fill color. And right click so that it has no outline property. And that would be our finished shoe. Let's go ahead and throw a weed box around it. So that would basically be the finished look. Now if I wanted the border, the boundary thicker, of course I could make it thicker. Maybe I'll go ahead and make it white. Or we don't have to have the boundary at all. So if we didn't want the boundary at all, then let's see here, let's make this, let's just say we're going to put this on a pink shirt or something. So now you can kind of see what it would look like. So anyhow, that's how you go about taking a rhinestone design and just using those tools in CoreDRAW to create something new and different. You know, if you have a rhinestone design that you want to make an HTV version of it, it's pretty straightforward to do, but there is a process, and depending on the type of design you're creating, you know, it could be either more or less difficult, but at least gives you an idea of how to go about creating that design. Thanks for watching.